you're starting off with your marketing, and what are some 3 things that we should be doing? Like I said, Google Business Profile. Everybody should have a Google Business Profile. You can set that up for free. You adjust it super, super easy. You can do it from your phone. And it's one of those things where think about yourself as a consumer. Think about yourself as an internet browser. When you are looking for a company, are you clicking on the first ad you see? Maybe not. Are you looking at that Google Business Profile in the bottom corner that has like the stars and the information and the hours and the reviews? Are you looking at the first result that's like organic?
All right, welcome back to another edition of The Better Contractor. Today, I'm joined by Jacki with Agile Marketing. Jacki, welcome.
Hello, thank you. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, and I have Travis, who I think what is this, episode 28, Travis?
29, somewhere in there. 29, 30.
29, 28, somewhere in there. Anyway, whatever episode this is, we've been talking about giving Travis a nickname. And you have a nickname. It's called The Professor. Because you always have deep thought. You look like a professor. I mean, look at you. You touch your beard a lot. You play with the beard hairs a lot. I mean, you are a professor, Travis. So next podcast, I expect a turtleneck and round glasses.
Well, I was thinking like my mind's going to basketball, which is so turtleneck and round glasses. All right, man. We'll see what we can do.
I went to Indiana Jones is kind of
There
where
you
my
go.
brain
Yeah,
went.
the tweed jacket with herringbone. Yeah, okay, got it.
The hat. It's the hat. Get the bullwhip.
I think I'll lean more towards the Indiana Jones professor idea.
Yeah. So the Better Contractor, we use Agile for our like full service marketing firm. So we are picky about who we partner with. We're picky about who our vendors are. So we try to pick the best of the best. And I think on this podcast, you will see why we picked Agile and why we were thankfully assigned to Jacki. So Jacki, tell us a little bit about yourself and your background.
Awesome. You're much too kind, Brent. Thank you so much for that. Well, like Brent said, I'm Jacki. I'm here from St. Louis, Missouri. I actually grew up not too far from St. Louis in a rural community called Troy, if anybody's familiar there. Big proud members of the FFA out in Troy, Missouri. Good stuff. And then I went from one rural community to another when I went to school at Kirksville, at Truman State University in Kirksville, Missouri. So like the small towns. I actually went to school in Kirksville for history was my undergrad and education was my graduate. So I was actually a high school history teacher for the first 10 or so years of my professional career. I worked at a local high school here in St. Louis. Loved every single minute of it. It was great. Yeah. Made it through COVID. COVID was pretty hard on a lot of educators. And kind of at that time, early COVID years, 2019, 2020-ish, I actually started writing, like all teachers, we all have side hustles, right? I started writing SEO articles for Agile. So that's where I started here with Agile in the marketing world, was actually in the SEO realm. So for SEO, search engine optimization. And when you learn all about search engines and how you pop up on Google is really, really cool. So that kind of piqued my interest there in marketing. Like I said, made it through, I feel like, the hardest years of COVID and needed a bit of a break. A position opened up here at Agile and I swooped in and snagged it. So I've been here, I guess, 3 years or so now, and it's been lovely, absolutely wonderful. I learn a lot every single day. I feel like marketing is one of those things where, when I was teaching, I could go on autopilot. The content's not changing in history, sorry. But, here there's something new every single day, constantly updating platforms, constantly updating clients, whatever it may be. So definitely an exciting, fast-paced world here in marketing, but really, really enjoy it. I think one thing that really ties together like education and the marketing world is people, right? So I work with people every single day, work with clients just like I would work with students. And it's been great. So all good things.
Yeah, awesome. Well, I know one thing when we started using you guys, you guys are a very data-driven marketing. Can you tell me a little bit more about that? I think you know where I'm going with that and asking that question.
Yeah, so we like results and I want hard results, right? So everything that we do, whether it is when Chance goes to work with somebody for the first time, so if he's doing like his kickoff call, which I'm sure, happened with you, Brent, he should be asking questions. He's asking all kinds of questions about your company. He's learning a little bit about you as well. Then he'll put together a, proposal of what he thinks you guys need. And then from there, a lot of the account managers will kind of take over. And that's what I really get into is what do we see on the back end? So what is the data telling us in terms of what's the next step? So if you're, I'm sure Chance has said it 1,000 times, if you need leads right now, what do we need need to do, we're going to head to Google, right? If someone is typing in searches and you can appear for those searches, like, yeah, you're going to type that into Google. But if it's one of those things where maybe you're a more visual company, maybe we're going to put you on Facebook, where we're kind of focusing more on the audiences and interests, or maybe we do need more of that SEO kind of behind the scenes. But either way, no matter which direction we're going, like you said, Brent, we want that data. And especially in terms of like different platforms and performance, I want to know if I've got you on both Facebook and Google, is one performing better than the other? I want to know how many form fills I got. I want to know how many calls that we had. I want to know the clicks. I want to know, we'll do audits before we start working on any kind of SEO, so we know what we have a starting point, and then we have a goal of where we want to get. Do we want a higher domain rating? Do we want a bigger backlink profile? Whatever it may be. So we start off with data, kind of our starting point, and then we're constantly using that data to determine where we're going. What's the next step? Are we doing the right thing? Should we make a move? Do we need to pivot? Should we continue to capitalize on what we are currently doing? So yeah, we want that back end data, that form fill, the call data, all the things, especially for leads. We want to make sure that we are doing our job and that we are providing a value.
So from a contractor entrepreneurial perspective, so there's a lot of people that feel, or if you watch them, it looks like they think, okay, for marketing, they think marketing equals social media, meaning I need to do posts, I need to do stories, I need to just get some video out there, and that's all that I need to do. So with our, Agile and Better Contractor at Atlanta Corp, obviously we do our own video, we do our own posting. Talk to me a little bit more from a learning perspective. If I'm listening to this podcast and being like, hey, I'm doing all that stuff, I'm making posts, why do I need to do what you guys do? Why do I need to hire Agile?
Sure. I think it's one of those things of what's your goal, right? So you're making posts, but what are you doing with that post? You're posting it. Are you trying to get more leads? If you're trying to get more leads, what's the next step in that post? So if they click on that post, are they going to your website? Are they going to your Facebook page? What exactly is the goal? And I think a lot of that often gets kind of misconstrued in marketing, that, like you said, social media equals marketing. And I think that's a big part of my job, is truly just educating clients as best as I can in terms of what is the strategy we're taking? What is the difference in the strategies that you're looking at? Like, I can't tell you the number of times that I'll tell somebody, or somebody will ask me about SEO. Why am I not appearing for this search term or whatever it is? And it's like, oh, buddy, that's Google Ads. We're talking about Google Ads versus SEO is a whole different ballgame. So I got a little bit off kilter there, Brent, from your question, but
Very good.
why? Like, what is the difference, or what's the goal there? Like you said, someone's posting something, but what's the goal there? And that's just kind of would be my question, is like, you may be getting out there, you may be getting your brand out there. And if that's your goal, great. That's brand awareness. That's huge. That is a big part of a marketing strategy. But if your goal is to get leads, one post on Facebook or Instagram, or even consistent posts on Facebook and Instagram organically, may not be your best bet. What's your next step? So if you're just doing marketing, or if you're just doing social, like Facebook or Instagram or TikTok, again, it's what's your goal? Do you want to get your name out there? Do you want to drive leads? What's
Yeah.
the end result?
So it's using the data that you guys are collecting, fine tuning those strategies, and
Oh
then
yeah.
moving forward. And even on like websites, I see a lot of people, they'll use, I won't name names, but a build your own website type thing. Talk to me about how it's beneficial to use a company like yours instead of a build your own website. Why that's important.
Like a build your own website, like a Google site? Like, what do you mean by build your own website? Tell me more about that.
Well, Squarespace. Like,
Oh, sure.
yeah.
Oh, okay. So I do have to, again, specify there. So we don't build websites. That's not part of what
Mm-hmm.
Agile does. Um, but man, that's a tough one in terms of, you can build your own website. I will say that you're welcome to do that. But again, you mentioned like the behind the scenes things. So if you build your own website, and I work with some clients who are on Squarespace, and again, like the platform, all platforms are similar. They start off at like a pretty solid base level, but obviously the more bells and whistles, the more expensive it gets, the more capabilities you can get as well. So yeah, you can build a website on like Squarespace or something like that, but what's the follow-up question, right? So what's the goal of the website? Is it just brand awareness? Are you trying to collect leads? If you are trying to collect leads, do you have a form somewhere on there? Do you have specific service pages? Do you have specific location pages, things along those lines, where yeah, I can create this big, beautiful, pretty website, but if it's not optimized, and that's kind of that SEO talk that we'll talk about, if it's not optimized on the back end, if we're not talking page titles and URLs and meta descriptions, all of these things that when you're building a website you don't think about, then yeah, you're missing opportunities. So I don't think that's necessarily you're not doing something wrong by building your own site, but I think you could be missing opportunities when you are doing it yourself and not consulting.
Yeah, yeah. Professor, it's your turn.
Yeah, no lighthearted conversations with that title.
I know you have a series all the
No,
time.
so I knew that you had an education background. I think it came out in one of the conversations, Jackie, but I didn't realize it was history, I
Yeah.
guess. So I love history. It was my dad was really into history, and so especially military history,
Yeah.
and so grew up reading a bunch of stuff. But two of my most favorite quotes, going back to the quote master, two of my most favorite quotes are about history of it's Mark Twain with Missouri, just north of Hannibal, right? Yeah.
Hannibal? Yeah, that's right.
So that was one of the things when I lived in the St. Louis area for almost 8 years. I had no idea the amount of history that was in Missouri in St. Louis, but the Mark Twain
Oh,
just
yeah,
north.
for
I
better or
mean, it's
worse.
crazy. But his quote of history doesn't repeat itself, but it rhymes. But then when you couple that with Winston Churchill's quote, the further is kind of paraphrasing. The further backwards you understand, the further forward you can see about the
Mm.
importance of studying history and looking at it. But then also when you couple both of those together with Mark Twain's, you can see patterns essentially. And then also with Winston Churchill's is we've been on this earth for enough time that just about every scenario is played out in one form or another. Human behavior and motivation and things don't change a lot. We'll use the tools of our time, and that's where, like Mark Twain's, it doesn't repeat itself, but it rhymes. In that there will be nuances that shift human and what we use for the end results or what we're trying to achieve based off of what we got available. But ultimately, we're all going after the same thing. And if you want to understand a little bit about where you're headed as far as an individual organization and what results you're potentially going to get, if you understand patterns and you understand history, the better you understand it, you can forecast a little bit better than just letting things happen to you, because within a few degrees you're going to get a certain result that's similar to what other people have gotten. And I think that maybe dovetails in or ties in with the metrics and the data. So I'm a huge data geek too. I'm not a big fan of gimmicks. Um, and I mean, there's sometimes a place for that, for maybe if you're trying to achieve attention or get attention, but I want to see results. I want to see ROI. I want to see that it actually, whatever you're doing, moves the needle on something. And when it comes to marketing, that there, with the evolution of technology and tools and things that we've seen over the past 10, 15 years, but really since the rise of the internet, and the smartphones, data collection and communication, and all these new sources of data collection, we've had quite a challenge over the past maybe like 5, 6 years ish, that we we started to have the capability to collect a bunch of data on a bunch of stuff. But there's also another quote out there that a an abundance of data typically results in a poverty of attention. So you have all this information and data, and typically when you have so much, there's thresholds that it can become overwhelming, in the sense that I have no idea. It's all white noise. There's just so much. I have no idea what. Well, there's definitely way cooler tools with the rise of AI, with monitoring and measuring tools and software and things that are out there that can now aggregate that data and help you understand and make sense of what this is, see and peek behind the scenes about performance, who's clicking on what, who the audiences are, what's resonating, what's not. Uh, every industry is dealing with. They need to start adopting technology to augment what historically might have been gut or gut feeling, or there's an acronym that people defaulted to HIPPO, highest paid person's opinion. Whoever in the room had the biggest paycheck, that's whose opinion drove whatever strategy going forward. And so for like marketing, in a day and age where everything's got a digital presence, it has to, in every company, an individual, and your personal brand, people, we talked about it on other podcasts, of if you got a business, people are, they're going online and searching for you first. And depending on what they see or they don't see is potentially going to drive how they interact or what they interact with. And so that it's so important for you to have that presence. But to what you're saying and what Brent values and is, look at the metrics. Like we live in an era where we've got so many tools and things that can assist us in helping make smart decisions. We don't have to rely on gut feeling anymore, what we think or just one person's opinion. There's definitely tools out there that can help guide our behavior and pivot our resources. And so for this marketing thing, it's such, historically it's been smoke and mirrors and alchemy and some magic in there, people not really understanding it. But I think with what Brent was talking about too is finding the right company, pursuing somebody who's doing really good things in there, and then your guys' approach of asking a lot of qualifying questions. What is it you're trying to achieve, as opposed to just prescribing something, but then leveraging the data. So I love I I loved the aspect of the metrics and the data and helping utilize that to guide decisions.
Well, I think historically with marketing, you never knew, like pre social media, you did billboards, you did newspapers, and unless you specifically asked, how did you hear about us? You didn't know if your stuff was working. You didn't know how many people viewed it. You didn't know how many people actually would come in because of it. You know, even with this podcast, like we met last week and kind of went over as a group, like, okay, which podcasts are most viewed? At what minute did people fall off? How long did they listen? So you have all of that data now to know this is the topics people like. Whatever was said around minute 4 that didn't resonate very well, or whatever, you know, or get to the point a little bit quicker is what that's usually telling you. So anyway, Jackie, I'll turn it back to you though.
Yeah, no, I think all of that makes perfect sense. Yeah, and really great point too. And like you said, a lot of the marketing, especially early on, again, I'm still fairly fresh in it, so I've really come into it with all of the bells and whistles. So I see the Google data, the analytics, and all of those things. But Travis, yeah, you're absolutely right. Like we got to work backwards. We got to see where you're starting from, what you've tried in the past, in order to move forward with something more productive. So yeah, exactly, like you guys have mentioned multiple times, right? Like it's, you have to make sure you're on the same page with your marketing company, like make sure your goals are the same, and like obviously that we're on the same page constantly. But yeah, that data is everything, and I want to collect all of it, and we have nothing to hide. And like I feel like maybe that's something that everybody should know is both sides, both teams, like you guys, your side and our side, we have access to the exact same stuff. So you have access to all of your Google accounts, your analytics stuff, your behind the things, your Klaviyo, your emailing accounts, all of these things. You have access to all of that, and at any point in time you can hop in there, and obviously it's beneficial for us to be as transparent as possible as well. And so I think so often marketing teams in particular are, we see like a dip, and whatever the situation may be, you might be afraid to ask questions. But I think that's one of those things too where you really have to work with your marketing team. So like not only are we're looking at that past data, that past performance, but if there is a situation where something has gone well, great, I want to hear from you what has gone well. Like if I drove a bunch of leads, like were they good, were they quality leads, or was it not? Or if something poorly happened, or if we see like a dip in lead generation, something along those lines, great, I want to work with you. And I feel like Brent and Travis, you guys both do a really good job with this, of like, hey, I want to work with you in terms of, here's the next topic that's relevant for my service industry. Here's the next, thing that might be relevant for someone to see or to hear, for them to click on something. So yeah, like we're collecting that data, working with your marketing team, all really important things there.
So if somebody was, because there's just, it can be overwhelming. So you get somebody who understands that they need to do marketing, and especially in this industry, there's so many options. There's so many technological uh, crazy things, or you see the TikTokers or the YouTubes or the shorts or the crazy videos to get attention. So if you had to distill based off of, you guys work with multiple clients across industries in this technological age, if somebody was going to revamp or starting a business, or they've had a business for several years that's successful, and now they're going to focus on marketing coming from either side. If there was only like three or four things that they 100% had to focus on that is worth their time and effort and money and blood, sweat, and tears to put into marketing, what would be the top things? What should they pursue?
Okay, so three things you mentioned that, yeah, when you're starting off with your marketing, what are some three things that we should be doing? Like I said, Google Business Profile. Everybody should have a Google Business Profile. You can set that up for free. You adjust it super, super easy. You can do it from your phone. And it's one of those things where think about yourself as a consumer. Think about yourself as an internet browser. When you are looking for a company, are you clicking on the first ad you see? Maybe not. Are you looking at that Google Business Profile in the bottom corner that has like the stars and the information and the hours and the reviews? Are you looking at the first result that's like organic? And a lot of times I find myself going over to that. We call it like Google is like a map pack, your Google pack down there on the kind of like the bottom right. So if I'm typing in a specific company, I'm probably going to be going to that Google profile because I know all that information is accurate. That's not an ad. That's something that business put together themselves. That's what they want us to see. So I feel like your business profile in particular, that is your presentation to everyone on Google. So always making sure that's up to date, that information is full. If I see one that doesn't have any reviews, or if I see one that doesn't have hours or a phone number, that's incomplete to me, and that is a red flag. You know what I mean? So I think that's something to always kind of keep in mind, and that's something that you can do for free. Those are little things that we as consumers think about yourself and your own habit as a consumer. And are you looking for a complete profile? If it's not, does that send a red flag? Great, you can do that yourself. Add those images. You can ask your clients for reviews, all of those things. I'd say the next thing there would be that lead feedback in marketing. So if you're working with a marketer or a marketing team, absolutely. If you're working with an agency like us, for example, one thing I'm constantly begging clients for is feedback on leads. I hate flying blind. And so what we'll do, and you guys know the drill, you've been with us for a couple months now, like we'll pretty much collect every single lead. I want data on every single lead, and I can tell where it comes from, if it came from a certain website, a certain ad, a certain landing page, if it came from social media versus, Google or whatever it is. That lead feedback is so incredibly important just because it's wild how much changing and updating that we need to do as marketers on our side based on that lead feedback. And so what's wild is, for example, I'm just trying to think of some examples here. Like I've had a client who one particular search term for their industry took off one month. And I'm like, oh, this is fantastic. I love everything about this. And, was working with like a display campaign or something along those lines. And I am trying to get a hold of my client. I'm like, hey, we're getting good leads here. How's it looking on your end? Nothing, didn't get any feedback. So I let that continue to run to continue to collect conversions. Finally, when my client got back to me, they're like, yeah, we got all those leads. They were not good quality, not what we were looking for. So we had a lot of time there where we spent money providing a bad lead, which was soul crushing on my end, soul crushing on their end. And it could have been something that would have been, mediated just by a little bit of communication. And so I would say definitely like making sure you're providing lead feedback, whether that's for yourself, your team. Because again, if you're doing your own marketing, pay attention to that. Pay attention to that data. Are you getting more from social media? Are you getting more from TikTok versus, Facebook or whatever it is? Are you getting people who are emailing you more often? Or are you getting people who are calling you more often? So yeah, kind of keeping track of those things, keeping track of your leads, providing feedback whenever you can. Number 3, I would say 100% is what you're putting out to the world, right? So what are the visuals you're putting out there? And it's such a tricky thing, right? Because on our organic side. So when I say organic, we're talking about the things that you're doing for free that you are doing. Obviously, the paid side is what you're doing with ads and all that good stuff. But yeah, I would say definitely number 3 would be your quality of media, if I'm being completely honest here. Don't get me wrong, there are appropriate places for a video just from your iPhone or whatever it may be. There are appropriate places for like a fun little like TikTok dance or whatever it may be as well. But if you are, if we're putting ads on Facebook or if we're putting together your website and you're giving me those photos from your phone, that's not great quality, right? So that's not, who am I going to entice with that type of creative? Would you click on that photo? You know what I mean? So again, it's one of those things that you always have to kind of consider yourself as a consumer. Like, I'm putting it out there. Is that good enough for me to click on? And if not, what do you do, right? So I would definitely say like just being aware of your visuals that you're putting out there. So the videos, the images, if you're putting graphics together, all of those things, and making sure that you have quality creative to put out there. If you are starting marketing, that's one of those things that we're constantly begging some of our clients for, and it's just like quality creative that we can put out on Facebook that you feel proud of, right? That someone sees in an ad and they want to click on, because if you're not, it's pretty much just kind of a little bit of wasted money on that particular platform.
So where do you draw the lines? You see, the spectrum is all the way from authentic, cheap, free
Mm.
on your iPhone TikTok videos that 30 seconds goes viral to the opposite end of the spectrum. I'd call it cold corporate, of where it's so polished and so put together and rehearsed that and probably expensive too. And then there's everything in between. Probably a step down
Mm-hmm.
from that would be less corporate polished, but maybe more fun and energetic, but still very professional. Um, what's the right approach? If
Yeah.
like one's expensive, one's super cheap, one seems to get traction in some
Yeah.
and not in others, and what message does it send to do? I guess what's your insight? Is somebody who's like, all right, we're going to do videos, we're going to do pictures. So the hard statement of, well, the unprofessional phone videos, I think people could find evidence that that's not necessarily true. I mean, sometimes those get traction as being
Oh, for
authentic.
sure.
And so, like, how do you demystify what's appropriate? How should they look at, if we're going to pursue, like, is it a combination? What's right? What's wrong? Like, can you clarify or shed some light on
Yeah.
some of that?
Yeah, well, I think you kind of nailed it in every way. You're exactly right. And I think it's a client by client basis, it's a case by case basis. I wish there was just a black and white answer of like, you're this kind of corporation, you're this kind of creative. That's really just not the case, right? So it depends on the client, 100%. It depends on the platform as well. So, like you said, TikTok, we could put a lot more crude stuff on TikTok. And by crude, I mean just like unpolished, a lot more unpolished on TikTok. That's expected, right? On Instagram, and you're thinking, like, we have, when we're talking about advertising on Facebook, that's Facebook and Instagram. That's Meta. So that's hitting a lot of different people, right? You're hitting not only your Facebook scrollers, you're hitting your Instagram scrollers. And so same thing from like Instagram. It's a case by case basis. So we have some clients who provide a service, a local service. So local clients in particular that are providing like a service to other people locally. What would you want to see, right? So if I am looking at, I'm trying to think of a good example here. Like dog training. So one of our clients, we have some great dog training clients that we have great commercials. We have corporate commercials that we'll typically use for things like brand awareness, where we're trying to push it out to as many people. We want as many eyes as possible on that. Yes, I want that polished. I want that clean. I want that to look lovely with all of your branded materials in it. Now, we take that down a notch and we're looking at, that same client, but we're looking for more lead generation. That's a little bit different audience. I want someone who's ready to convert now. So that might look a little bit different. Do they want to see the generic branded video? Probably not. They might want to see that iPhone video, like you've mentioned, of someone's dog, like a before and after. I want to see day one, and then I want to see day whatever 2 weeks later while they're perfect. And I'm seeing that from an iPhone with Susie from down the street that I know. You may have just gotten a new client. That's someone that I know. That's a trust factor. I've seen it with my own eyes before and after. It looks authentic to me because it's that iPhone video. So again, like it's a case by case basis. Unfortunately, I think it depends on what your goals are, right? So if you want to just get that brand awareness out there, we want that big, beautiful corporate video that everyone can get eyes on. If I'm trying to get someone like in the doors, then maybe we need to kind of rethink that strategy a little bit. And what would you want to see as a consumer? A little bit more personalized.
And then, yeah, the customer too. So if we're looking at the contractor space,
Yeah.
I'm thinking
Yeah.
majority of the customers are going to be business owners, middle aged, and what do they want to see? It would be different if all your clients were college age kids.
Well, and
Sure.
even
Maybe
in the
it.
contracting space, it changes a lot because if you're doing like construction, like home building, then you're all homeowners. If you're doing only industrial and commercial, then you're dealing with huge mega companies, like
Mm-hmm.
FedEx, UPS building, their big warehouses. Um, and even like in the tree, lawn care, landscape, we're kind of tree business, but we're 100% oil and gas, so another tree business may be nothing but residential. So it's, knowing your market too. But
Mm-hmm.
one question I did have, Jackie, and this is probably a little bit vague in a way, but I'm putting myself back into a young entrepreneur's shoes. And why should I hire someone like you? Like, what's the advantage of going with someone like Agile over
Yeah,
doing some of these free things only by myself if I'm wanting to grow
sure.
my business?
No, I think that's a great question. Um, And I think so you're starting from scratch, brand new, never had anything. Yeah, I think that's really great working with an agency or a marketing company because we can set it off right from the beginning. We can start collecting data from day one. So like a couple of the things, and you asked like why work with us? It's because we know all those little nuances, all those little check boxes that again, like maybe contractors building their own sites or somebody building their own marketing plan may not know about. So we know that I want to get you set up with like Google Analytics, Search Console. I want to check the health of your website. We're going to do all those like little audit things to get a little test to get an idea of where you're currently standing. And so then if you have a good marketer, a good marketing team, they should be able to present you with a lot of options. Again, like making sure we're meeting that your goal. So again, you're a brand new contractor, you're working with a marketing team, be very clear on like what goal do we want. Do you just want to build like lead generation, build that brand awareness? And so like as a brand new contractor, you're kind of starting off on that right foot. So I'm going to start you off getting like your Google verification. We're going to start with your LSAs, your local service ads. We're going to start with like all of these things kind of cast a really wide net that you as an individual may not have been able to cast on your own. And especially like depending on your industry, do we know if we need to be on Google? Do we know if we need to be on Facebook? Is Bing the correct market for you? So I think with an agency or with like a professional marketing team, a lot of those questions that it would take you a long time to figure out individually are going to get addressed right away, and you can kind of put that toward your marketing plan moving forward. So I feel like, yeah, you build a great foundation. If you're working with your website in particular and we're working with SEO, we're going to make sure all that's optimized. And the other thing too, working with us in particular, is that we make sure you own everything. I don't want your Google account. If you decide to leave us and go to a different marketer, great. Take your stuff with you. That's fine. That's data that you need as a company. Like if take a look into the past stuff. If it didn't work, great. Pivot, try something different. So I think again, like working with an agency like us, like we're going to make sure you have access to all of that stuff that you may not have known about that you can take with you if you need to go. And I think that's another thing too that like we see in marketing a lot. Like if something's not working, great, switch teams. That's okay. That happens. But making sure contractors in particular are prepared to take, if they need to move their services or whatever it is, they know exactly what they have. They know what accounts they're running out of. They know what platforms they're running. They know their lead data, all that good stuff. And I think you can get that with an agency. Like just bigger picture and better idea of your marketing, what you need to do moving forward. A lot more questions are going to be asked that you don't know about yourself as an individual.
Yeah. Yeah. I
Any
think it's super important when you're starting out to have your marketing done correctly. Like you said earlier, from the visuals. So the
Yeah.
professional, like it looks put together, you don't look like a brand new company just starting up because the people are going to use the image they see online for the most part to judge you, so like first impressions, everything. It is that way. It's online now, though, a lot of it. So I like when we first started Lantern Corp, social media was there, but it wasn't nearly nothing like you see today. It was basically Facebook, if I remember right back then. And I remember we partnered with a different marketing firm back then, and but we did it right off the bat. Like I think we were a year in, maybe.
Okay.
And when Lantern Corp was created, we hired them. I thought it was astronomical amount of money. I thought I was crazy for spending it, but I knew if I wanted to see the growth I wanted to see, that I had to present ourselves in such a way, market ourselves in such a way to get above the bigger players in the industry. So we spin it. And I will say, for those of you listening that may be on the fence of whether or not to do something like this, we had 100% growth year after year after year after year. I think we had, I don't have it in front of me. I think there were 7 years of 100% growth in the beginning.
Mm-hmm.
And that was all marketing. It wasn't all marketing, But did that help a bunch? 100%, because it told our story. It a lot of allowed that we were new, but then we also
Hmm.
went into this is what we stand for, this is who we are, this is what we believe, here's our services. We're willing to come do the project that other bigger companies may not do. But then it looked good, So at least the impression was, if they're this picky about this, maybe they'll be this
Sure.
picky about my job site as well. So anyway, that's
Yeah.
yeah, kind of my plug for spending the money on marketing and doing it right from the very get go.
Yeah, I think you're absolutely right. It makes sense, and like you said, it's expensive. But if you start it off right, you can only get better, right? And you're
Yeah,
just piling on more and more data and more information to continue to build from.
yeah.
I think it's relative though. It's expensive if it doesn't pay off. Um,
Sure.
Well, and when I say expensive, there, I'm just saying at that stage of the game, you're like, that's a lot of money. Yeah.
I mean, it's if it's truly viewed as an investment,
Mm-hmm.
and then it's got to be a calculated because I'm trying to. There's parallels that we do it all the time. So it's the little bit better piece of equipment. If you're just starting out the business, you buy the more reliable piece of equipment. It's expensive, but it's considered an investment because it's going to give you time. It's going to break down less. It's going to give you time back. You're going to be able to do maybe more with it. It might not be the brand new one, brand new model, but you spent a little extra money to get the better equipment. As I'm drawing the parallels with like safety too.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
we've made similar comments about you do the safety up front, even though it might cost more to buy the equipment or the training, or you pay more for the skilled labor, or you're taking extra time to do things safely. It's gonna it's gonna mitigate potential challenges that will cost you a lot of money, or even the business or people's lives in the future.
Mm-hmm.
Similar with training, similar with marketing. I mean, you're not just throwing money at it. You gotta make a calculated decision if you're going to do the marketing, but ultimately, and maybe you don't have to do all of it, but getting off on the right foot, uh, getting the right direction will save the money and time and effort much later when you're completely off course, and now you have to do all the cleanup on it and spend the money to go get things back on track, or to do things appropriately. So I, I think it's just like similar conversations that we've had, whether it's safety, whether it's training, the marketing component of it's an investment if
Yeah.
it's done
Some things
right.
are an expense, but they're actually an investment. And I know, with business and stuff, I'm a lot of people want to think, hey, times are tight or whatever. So what expense can I cut? And I always say there's actually another side of that. Another question you should ask is, how can I increase my income though? So everybody always wants to cut, cut, cut. Well, there's still another question to that is, okay, you can cut a little bit, sure, but how can you increase your income? And a lot of this stuff is kind of safeguarding that. The safety. I can speak to that where one incident can raise your work comp premium by way more than if you'd had a safety program for the 10 years prior. So there's a lot of that as well. And I think marketing is another one of those that until you do it, you don't know what you're missing. And I think that, to me, again, it goes back to that first impression. If you're not creating a good first impression, how many phone calls are you missing? And
Hundred
and,
percent.
and if you're not getting the reach that you need to get with your posts and in your Google and all that, how many people are you missing?
The importance of marketing, what's in it for me? I mean, it almost doesn't matter whether you're starting the company now or you've had a company for the last 30 years, and everything in between. Why is it important to do this? Because you have both both company. We said people were searching for your company online. As soon as like I'm looking for a lawn care business, and I saw Jackie's lawn service, whatever billboard, I'm going to go search for you. Um, but just to really hammer down, if you're starting out, you see it as an expense. I need to go get clients so that I can get income, and that would be the argument against doing spending time or money in marketing. You've got the company that's been around for 30 years. We've been around for 30 years, and we haven't had to engage in this and really focus in it. We've got name recognition, or multi-year clients, why should they focus on it? Why is it so important in this day and age for them to actually spend the time, money, and effort when it might seem counterintuitive to focus on marketing?
Wow. So why should a company focus on marketing?
In a
That's
Eh,
nutshell.
what you're
In a
asking.
nutshell.
yeah,
Yeah.
because as
Man.
Brent said earlier, like it might be viewed as an expense. Like, all right, when
Yeah.
Well, and
I'm
to
out
make
here
your last
cutting.
point, like with the older contractors or entrepreneurs who've been in business for a long time, well, I have the name recognition, I have all this already, so what I need to do this, and I think that goes back to you need to always stay relevant. So whatever innovation, whether that's marketing or that's a software, something you can do in the field to gather data and be more up to date and just relevant. I think the moment
Hmm.
an older company stops doing all of that is the moment that they then get swallowed up or market share taken by someone who is doing all of that. So I'll say that, and
Yeah.
then I'll just push it back to you, Jackie.
Yeah, sure. No, I think you're exactly right. Like, and it all goes back to what are your goals, right? What are your goals? If you want to grow your company, you want to invest in marketing, right? If, like you said, Travis, if you're just a guy that's been doing this for 30 years and I'm content with my company and this is it, this is all I want to do, and I have my 2 jobs a week or whatever it is, great. That's your goal for your company. That's fine. You don't need to go make that investment. But if you want to grow, if you want to build, if you want to, like you guys have said, stay relevant in that industry and especially stay relevant to your audience, you need that marketing. And I believe like most clients would not feel comfortable jumping into Google Ads or jumping onto Facebook by themselves. So yeah, you need that marketing team or that marketing expertise as well, to grow, to build, right? And like you guys have said so many times, marketing is so many things. It's more than just like Google Ads and Facebook ads, but we're working with your website, we're working with like your Google profile, all of those things. So when you're focused on marketing, you're all encompassing your entire business. It just depends on what your goals are, right? If you want to grow that business, if you want to focus more on growing your organic results, you're going to need that as well. You're going to need that marketing component as well.
I like it, Jackie. So I guess to summarize this podcast, if you want to grow
Oh
your
man.
business, invest in marketing. That's point one.
Yeah.
If you want someone else to take market share from you, do not invest in marketing. Find someone like an Agile, whoever it is, whether it's them, someone else, find someone to help you get that data, fine tune your SEO, fine tune your ads, whatever it may be. Find someone to do it. Hire a couple people to do quality visuals, like Jackie said. She gave you
Hmm.
guys some free points. Go back and listen to that session. At least do the free points, but then at some point, find you an Agile and run with it. Jackie, thank you so much for your time. Always helpful, always insightful. Thank you.
Brent, Travis, thank you guys so much. This is a great opportunity. I hope I gave you a little bit of what you wanted there.
You did. You did perfect. Travis, the
Thank you so
professor,
much.
thank you. Guys, if you liked the podcast, share it. If you didn't, tune on out.